made, it's always this real kind of flat candle stand, right? And so
Yes.
even when they build one, it looks like the second dimension. But
Yep.
if you take that same menorah and you move those candles around where one's at, say, 45 degrees or 33 degrees to each other, what you find out is this symbol now begins to show something entirely different. And if I took that menorah and turned it upside down and I twisted it, put ink on it, and I twist it, I'm going to get kind of like a target. But if I showed you that in a 3-dimension, and I show you here's the center, and then here's 2 of the candles, and then here's another 2, offset by 90 degrees, and then here's another 2, and I make them distant, you know what you end up with? The symbol for the Atomic Energy Commission.
Well, there you go. Exactly. Oh, my gosh. And I was even thinking of the solar system, close to it. But, oh, man, I hadn't thought of that idea of an upside-down menorah. They could get those impressions, I would imagine, from some way, revelation or, alien visitation, whatever, and then kind of symbolize that in a candle stand very easily.
Oh, yeah. And, Enoch is the one who says, look, to the later generation, I'm going to give the 7-fold doctrine of creation. Now, take a look at this for a minute, because Isaac Newton was studying the Hebrew when he said, look, there's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, but we have this divine number 7, which is the doctrine of all of creation. So if we take the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet and we divide it by the number 7, well, guess what? We come up with pi.
Okay. I can't believe Isaac Newton was a scholar of the Torah, the Hebrew, at the time that he was doing his scientific work.
Absolutely. And because he did this in 1662, in expectation that 1666 would be, of course, the 666 Return of the Beast.
Oh, my.
And so there was a lot of this going on. Now, in addition to that, if you take that 7-fold doctrine and you say, okay, well, look, I'm going to take the 7-fold doctrine and I'm going to multiply it by 7, this gives us the number 49. 49 are the number of degrees at which light becomes a rainbow when it shines through water.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Through water, which was obviously accessible and easily known, or at least tested back then. Fascinating.
Yeah. And so here you have these doctrines that are starting to emerge that come expressly out of Scripture.
Yeah.
Now take a look at this one. You have what's called the space-time continuum. The space-time continuum.
Yeah.
Right? The space-time continuum is found right in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So you have the beginning, which is time, and the heavens, which is space. And the connect between earth and space is the space-time continuum, found right there in Genesis 1:1.
That's true. Yeah, exactly.
And so what we discover is that Copernicus, Isaac Newton, Descartes was another one, and of course Einstein relied on Hebrew scriptures to give them these points of focus, not on just studying the pure mathematics of it all.
Yeah. Well, they from what I hear, they had some kind of inspiration or download or idea first before they could prove it mathematically. But maybe that's where the divine invention or extraterrestrial download, whatever you want to call it, happens to so many people that have made these breakthroughs like that. Now, listen, by the way, we are now talking, you're starting back in Genesis. I really appreciate you starting from the beginning. Let's not skip over Genesis 6:4, where the sons of man come down to earth and have children with the daughters of the sons of God, with the daughters of man. Tell us about that in your experience and study.
Okay, well, this is where you really start to open up a nut, if you will, because there are many people who say, well, look, you can't talk about that because the sons of God there were maybe the sons of Cain or the sons of Seth or something.
Yeah.
But it's the Ben Elohim, right? The Ben Elohim. And it says they were mighty men on the earth, right? Mighty men.
Yeah.
But when you look at the underlying Hebrew, it really says they were tyrants on the earth.
Oh.
Tyrants. Now, I was looking here tonight, and I'm looking at some of these passages, and the book of Jubilees is really incredible in telling us that in the land of Gilead, that used to be called Bashan, the land of the Raphaim. Now, Isaiah tells us, and Joshua tells us, that was the land of the Raphaim. Well, you ask yourself the question, okay, the Raphaim doesn't mean anything to be. Great. Maybe they're fathers of Raphael. No. The Raphaim, in Jubilees, he tells us, and these Raphaim were 10, 9, 8, and even 7, what's the word I'm looking for? Cubits.
Cubits. Oh, man.
7 cubits. Now, a cubit means from the elbow to the tip of the hand.
Yeah, let's define a cubit for folks.
Yeah, the cubit is to measure from the elbow to the tip of the fingers if you stretch your hand out.
So that's much bigger than a foot, obviously.
Yeah, in fact, Isaac Newton said the divine cubit is 27.3 inches.
Wow.
So you have this divine cubit, 27 inches. Now, measure that times 10, right? So you're talking 270 inches. 270 inches is a big boy.
God bless his mother. Oh, man.
I mean, you're talking somebody who's over 20 feet tall, right?
Yeah.
Now,
of course.
People say, well, there's no such thing as giants, but yet they found a footprint in China in granite, okay, in granite. This is not something that was like in some kind of soft mud, but in granite. And they estimate that the footprint, to accommodate the man that had that footprint, the man had to be 45 feet tall.
Oh, man. And, people are used, on our show anyway, the audience is used to watching History Channel, all sorts of interesting things on ancient aliens, where they come up with this forbidden archaeology of all of these interesting ideas where man was, like you said, giants. Supposedly this full skeletons being found and spirited away.
Right. Well, I don't know about the skeletons, but I can tell you there is a record of infrastructure that shows giants. Now, in addition to that, we have this historical record that appears inside Scripture that's been well accepted for thousands of years. For instance, Og of Bashan. Now, Og of Bashan had a bed that was 9 cubits.
Oh.
So you're talking about a bed that's between 18 and 20 feet long.
Yeah, and this is something that's called out in the Scripture being that long. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So we know, and Scripture also tells us that Og was a Raphaim.
Ah.
And that he lived as the last of the Raphaim.
Oh. Yeah,
so,
interesting.
All right, so people say, well, so it must have been the sons of Cain or the sons of Seth there in Genesis 6:4 that had these mighty children. Well, there's a bunch of record in the book of Enoch, the book of Jubilees, the book of Jasher, and there's subsequent record in Joshua and in Isaiah, even in the Chronicles, talking about these giants. Og of Bashan was one, and the other was, of course, the one we call Goliath, and his brother.
And his brother, you're right, there's a family.
Goliath, they estimate, was about 13 feet tall. Now, a lot of people, when they first hear this stuff about giants, they say, well, he was 13 feet tall, which means he was kind of like Wilt Chamberlain, only twice as tall. very skinny, very tall, right?
Yeah.
But no, when you're talking about a 13-foot tall person, you're talking about somebody who weighs like 3,500 pounds.
Yeah. Well, and didn't he have a special shield bearer to be able to carry for him? I mean, a strong man, obviously, to be able to carry his own shield. I mean, the shield of Goliath.
Yeah. It was called a golf cart, Michael. No, I'm just kidding.
It was a whole team of guys.
yeah, right. So, so what happened was you had Goliath. Now, here's what's interesting about Goliath. When you realize how big this guy was, you got to try to visualize how big his head was.
Oh,
his head was probably the size of 2 medicine balls.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So here. Go ahead.
And probably twice as heavy as a medicine ball. I mean, those medicine balls are heavy. That's what they're supposed to be. But oh man, that's huge.
Yeah. So here you got this big fat head, right? And here comes David, who could probably take the wings off a fly at 50 feet with his sling.
Yeah.
And he sees this guy, and he says, look, that guy's got the forehead the size of a barn door. I could hit that thing from 100 yards out, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a wonderful story. Oh, my gosh. It's like the epitome of, the underdog. But you're right. David, before he became king, was so confident, I understand, that, of course, I have seen actually this on a few television shows myself where some of the kids in Africa who have the slings, that they can do things. They can kill birds. They can, like you said, they can pick flies off of fences with these things.
Oh, yeah, these guys are deadly accurate. And he said, well, if I might miss the first time, so I'm going to pick up 4 more stones in case I miss.
Yeah, right.
But this guy's got a huge forehead. I'm going to hit him right there between the eyes. No problem. And the first shot he did, right?
Yeah.
But this guy's name was not really Goliath, okay? His real name was Goliath of Gath, okay? Now, take a look at this for a second. Because David goes out there and he says, okay, I killed this guy. Now I'm going to cut off his head. So he takes this guy's sword, and he cuts off his head with his own sword. So here you got this gigantic skull, right?
Yeah.
So he takes it, and he takes that skull back with him. And ultimately, he ends up in Jerusalem with this skull. Now, when he gets to Jerusalem, he buries that skull someplace, right? But he buries the skull of Goliath of Gath, Gath, at some place there in Jerusalem, the place of the skull called Golgotha.
You got it, Golgotha. Oh, man, what a great story that is. Because that is, it's right there in Jerusalem, right? It's
right there in Jerusalem.
The hill of the skull, or whatever Golgotha is so famous in the Bible. I didn't know the connection there. That's fascinating.
So as soon as I unearthed this connection, big mistake on my part, somebody in Israel says, "Oh, we found the skull," and they conveniently produced this skull that has the stone still stuck in the forehead, right?
Oh, great!
Say we found Goliath's skull right here. It's still got the stone stuck in the forehead. But where did you find it? Oh, we found it, way outside of Jerusalem. I don't believe that record. However, I do believe that the place of the skull is they're talking about the skull of Goliath, Golgotha, right?
Yeah.
So you see that we have this very strong record, giants. That comes out of the scriptural record, but it's also found in the Sumerian record, also found in the Hindu record, also found in the Egyptian record, also found in the Greek record. The Greeks, they called them titans.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. Yeah.
And they said these titans are what? Sons of gods, right?
Right.
They're sons of gods. And, of course, what they didn't tell you is when you talk about gods like Zeus and these people, that these guys were actually what Scripture calls fallen watchers.
Oh.
They were fallen watchers. And they, according to the Greek legend, had relations with human women and created these half-gods like Hercules or Apollo.
Yes. the same story in a whole different culture.